What's up, everybody? And Nigel's in early, real early. How you doing, Nigel? Good to see you again. So we're plugging away on the Ornithopter here. Welcome in. Last week was pretty much just trying to gut the main body of all the structures inside to make room for the photo etch. And I got to say, it's crazy how this thing goes together. I'm not even sure I understand how the wings attach at this point, but I think I figured it out. So I'm still doing photo etch, but I got some new stuff that arrived this week as far as product lines, and I'll go over that. Some stuff specifically for this, more of the VMS glues and stuff. I'll show that stuff here in a second. So just made it. Hey, what's up, Nigel? Good to see you. So anyway, how's everybody doing? I'm a little under the weather still. I'm trying to figure out, I've been feeling really just crappy lately. I think my wife's doing worse than I am. So we're going to plug away here. We're going to keep going, trudging on, so to speak, as the show must go on, and we will keep going. So let me just go down to the down look, and what a mess, right? Last week we had the body sections, and then we had to basically take all of this here. This is the structure that goes inside that holds the wings. This is getting completely removed. So all of the struts and pegs and pins that hold this whole thing together are cut out, sanded, and we're left with a gaping hole inside that we need to fill with the body of this thing. And that's what I'm doing right now, is slowly folding this main body section. There's a floor section that goes in where the cockpit is and all the seats are. That is attached to the bottom of this, because this whole thing kind of folds together like a big clamshell kind of, but doesn't fully come together at the bottom. And so you can see the separations here, because those pieces will fold and then those edges will meet. So let me go to close up here. I'll show you what I've done. So this is one of those additional layers to this interior here, and you've got some spots where the resin pieces go. I've already got one installed, so you can see that extra layer of photo etch that kind of gives it a structural look to it. So this also comes together in the back. This is glued here. So this is the back corner of which would be the right side of the cockpit. And then I've got to attach this other one. That's what we're going to do first tonight. This one goes on this side, and then we'll slowly fold together. I won't be putting it completely together because I still have to paint everything. And that leads me into the next thing here that I've got. So I picked up last week, I think I showed, or the week before, I showed off some of the VMS stuff that I had. I've got a slow CA and the Flexi stuff, the black thin, which is really nice. I used that a couple times. But one of the new things I got is this is a Flexi CA for resin. So I got that for resin parts. And I also had this, which was the CA glue filler, which is like a fine powder almost. It's kind of like using baking soda and super glue for filling gaps and stuff like that. Also, it helps, like, especially what I put a little bit on the back here where this seam is, because this won't be seen. It's on the back side. So I put the glue down there, and then I added a little bit of that filler, and that just kind of helps it stick to where you kind of coagulate and collect in the one groove where you want it to. But the new stuff is, as I got this is also a Flexi CA, but this is for photo etch. And so far it's a thinner one, pretty easy to apply, but works really well with photo etch. Gives you a little bit of working time before it finally seizes up and holds in place. So once especially with this big piece, because I've got not only is it complex, but it's also has bends in it. So I'll start kind of bending the sides, and then I attached one half of it first, and then was able to attach the bottom half. And then after that, we've got the super glue debonder. This is for taking off, so if you get any excess. So because there are some thin structural pieces, I had to put the glue behind it. Some of it's going to squeeze out, or the glue gets in the wrong place. You can use the debonder on a Q-tip or brush. It has a brush built into it, but I was using a Q-tip so I could kind of apply it a little bit less, because the brush kind of soaks up quite a bit and puts too much down. I didn't want it to get rid of the glue that I wanted underneath the photo etch. I wanted to just take off the excess. So that worked pretty well for cleaning up any excess on this piece here. So wherever there was some glue squirting out or squeezing out, I just used a Q-tip, excuse me, apply a little bit of that debonder. You got to let it sit for a minute and then wipe it away with the Q-tip, and it just takes away the excess. So it looks nice and clean, and it should paint up really nicely. As far as the resin pieces that, where the wings attach, these go on the inside. I'm going to end up painting all these first, and I've got 6 of these little guys that also go in between. You can see the outline here, and so each one of those will be placed 3 on each side of that hallway that goes from the cockpit all the way to the back. But these come in from the inside, and so they attach like this, and then you've got a nice flat surface here on the outside. Now, I think the way this works is these flat areas on these resin pieces, okay, and this is going to go in to the body somewhat like, let's see here, like this. Okay, I still got to do a couple more bends here to get everything perfect, but this should fit somewhere in here like this. I had to trim away a little bit of this receiver here for the only pin you don't take out when you basically gut everything. But this was also too big. It was sticking up too high, and it was hitting the bottom of this photo etch. So I had to trim off a little piece of it. But then with that flat surface sticking out through the holes here, that should be where these, now that I've cut the ball joint section off the back of it, those should go in and glue directly to the flats of these round pieces here. So let me see if I can put one of these on here just temporarily, and then flip it over so you can kind of see what it's supposed to look like. So this fits in. These have a notch, so they're clocked at a certain location. Okay, so if that fits in there like that, all right, you see that? That's the nice interior piece. And then you've got this flat area here. So when this piece goes on, see if I can do this without knocking it out. It should be somewhere around like that. So then there's that flat. Now it's a little bit off. It's come back, sit forward a little bit, so right about there. Okay, so now you see the flat there. So that should glue directly to that nice flat. What's up? What's up, Nick? How you guys doing? Oh, we got Shu in here too. How's it going, guys? Is my camera flicking on and off? Let me know in the chat if it is. I restarted my computer because it was doing that a little bit earlier. I don't know why it does that every now and then. I get a little, almost like a buffering, and then it comes right back. But as long as you're not losing audio and you guys can still hear me good. The last product that I've just added to the collection here is the Metal Prep 4K. This is a kind of like a primer for photo etch. So it's a adhesion promoter for metal. So it goes on just like it's got a little, it's kind of like the same bottle that the gap filler comes in. It's got a really thin little nozzle. So I'll probably end up putting this into a metal tin, a little tray, and then use a brush and brush it on. And that's supposed to help the paint stick to the photo etch. Even though typically if you just paint it and don't scratch it, you're good. But it will, what's up, Giovanni? It will help promote that paint from coming off easier than, especially with all these complex bends, because you can see kind of what I had to do here on this side. There's 3 or 4 different bends going in different directions, including up here. So, and it starts out flat. So I've got to start by I'm going to put some of those bends into the metal to get them kind of started. And then I'll start attaching this piece one part at a time. I'll get it placed. I'll put some glue. I think what I did last time is I put some glue right below the center here. So when this sits on there. I can line it up and stick it down right where that bend is supposed to be. And if it's good, it should line up with all these edges too. So they did a really good job with cutting the photo etch. It's an exact fit. They're really well made. So far so good. No complaints at all there. And with that, let me just since I don't have a bender that's big enough for this is the little tiny bug that I bought a long time ago for doing photo etch bending, but there's not enough space between, like if I tried to slide this in and get up to that edge, but it hits my peg here, so I can't get right to the bending edge. So I've been using my needle nose here, and actually in most cases, because this is such a large piece, I can actually just, and there's a pre-cut bending line in the photo etch. It's just easier I can kind of slowly coax it up. Or I've seen in some cases, what I did last time is I took my saw, I just placed that down and then use that as a bend location or locator. So that way you can start that bend. So I'm going to go small. I'm not going to go too deep because I will have to paint this first before I do finally close it up. And then we're going to start placing this down one bit at a time. There's also a bend back here. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 little bends everywhere. This piece, these have to bend here, but it also has to bend here. I mean, it's very complex and tedious. You got to take your time for sure. A lot of guys airbrush the metal primer on. Also helps to run a piece of 1500 dry over each fret before the primer. Yeah, I could do that. Give it a little bit of grip with some sanding. I'm not sure. I actually didn't think about it. I could take this out and put it in my airbrush. It's certainly thin enough. I want you to shake it up for 30 seconds, but when you do that, it just gets bubbles everywhere. But I suppose I could try that in the airbrush. Let it dry with, it's just to use like a hair dryer. But first things first, I've got to put a bend in the back here. There's 2 bends there. You can see, if you look you can see the lines. There's a diagonal line here, and then there's also one right here. So both of those need to be bent. Nice tip, Nigel. Yep, that was a very good tip. A little bit of a burr here. I forgot. I must have missed one of my little nibs for the photo. Tried to make sure I got them all, but I'm starting to find 1s and 2s here and there where I take out those little nibs. That way they're not becoming a nuisance later on. So let me just get these bends started. Once you get a decent, once it's starting to bend where it's supposed to, then it will be easier to do by hand later. I'm just putting a little bit of a twist on that, not much, and then right there as well. So I'm just matching the other side. Now I can kind of flatten this out because I'm going to have to attach this first. All right, so first thing I'm going to start in the middle. And I'll work my way out. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that CA right here that I can then hold that in place. And once that dries, then I can start going around the edges and applying. I'm just using a toothpick. You can use a small brass rod if you want, but toothpick works just fine. Let's put a little bit down, and then, like I said, I'll lift up each little edge and put more underneath as we go. Slowly tack it down, and then I'll have to go back over with the debonder and get up any excess. All right, so first things first, I'm just going to put a little bit on my paper here. I've already been putting glue on here, so there's a little bit of a spot already in place. I'll put a tiny bit right here. right below that bend line. And now I can bring this over. Got a little bit of time to work with it, but not a whole lot. I mean, when you got to get it down, and once you get it in place, you got to make sure you get it lined up pretty quickly. That's it. I mean, that's down pretty quick. But I've got all my edges lined up here, and if you do make a mistake, you can go back underneath it. If you need to reposition it, you can go back underneath it with a thin razor, and then just use debonder to take off any excess. It looks like I've got. I might have to take it off. Looks like it got just slightly out of position. So let me go back under this real quick. There it goes. Popped right up. And I'll just take a little bit of this debonder. Put it there. Actually didn't even really stick there, but I'll do a little bit on the back. You gave up on airbrushing altogether? Why, Giovanni? Say it isn't so. Can't give up. Well, I suppose you can. Where am I? There it is. Okay, I've got my little. I'm just going to take this debonder, use my tooth or Q-tip again. So there is a little brush in there, but it's actually pretty easy just to do it with this, because then I can not only apply it with it, but I can also scrub it off at the same time. Let that soak for a second or two. How's everybody's week going so far? There we go. Takes it right up. Nothing left. Perfect. All right. Close that back up. Let me dry this off real quick here. All right, let's try this again. Oops, I got a little bit of the debonder left on this piece, but nothing really stuck to that piece at all. So, all right, let's do this again. There we go. Okay, that's better. It gives you just enough working time. Now, it will bond your skin, so obviously you got to be careful with that. I was making sure I wasn't anywhere near it, but Nigel says, no week has gone well, surprisingly. Yeah, your car bill, you told me about that earlier. Man, that's tough. All right, so now that is basically in place, just tacked in, really. Now I can start going around the edges with the glue and holding, getting everything to stick in place permanently. And it's okay if you get a little bit underneath, like I said, or if it comes out because you got the debonder, you can go back later and remove that excess. It's a little bit, takes a little bit of patience, you know. It's not the fastest process, especially with a large, kind of complex piece like this, because it does need to bend in so many different directions. It takes a little bit. You just got to take your time. All right, now I'm not going to glue this piece because I've got to bring those two together first before I can glue that down. But I do want to go underneath. Let's see here. Maybe I can just pick it up with this. I want to get underneath. Kind of tack down a little bit more of this around the edge here. Okay. Because this is in the interior, I mean, it doesn't need to be completely glued every single square inch of surface. Just around a majority of the edges will be fine. As long as it stays flat, it'll paint up nicely, and you don't see any gaps. That's the big thing. If you got a gap, then of course you got to glue it down and take off the excess. Now I've got a spare Q-tip that I'm just like, if I'm trying to take off a majority of anything that squeezes out. That way I've got less to take off with the debonder later. Get it while it's wet, and then you got a little bit left over, and you can go back and use the debonder on it. Big list, bro. Cam belt, BOE. Oh gosh, BOE issue, widescreen tires, a windscreen, tires, power steering pump. Damn. It can be rough when you got, especially when you keep it on the road. I was talking to a guy the other day who used to own a Mitsubishi Starion, and I thought, man, you don't get too many of those guys anymore. Starion owners, they love their cars, but boy, were they rough. I mean, they didn't, the wiring on them, if you looked at the wiring wrong, it would break. I mean, it was just, they were extremely fragile cars, and it just, it was like they were constantly, the owners, for some reason, they would just keep putting money into them. They were a pain in the butt to fix and keep on the road, but they were just, the owners that had them, they loved them. All right, so I got some on that. There was also another piece that went on top of this. So there's actually 3 layers here. This little short piece here that's like these little tubes or pipes or whatever. This right here, this is another separate piece of photo etch. So there's actually 3 layers in some areas. All right, so before I glue this down, I've got to bring this in, and then this also has to come together to match that surface. So I'm going to go a little bit further with that. Then I'm going to bring this one up to match it. If I get these together right, I should be able to glue the back of that. So it'll take a second. Yeah, this is rough because there's photo etch right up against the edge of it. It's got a bend. It's got a bend right here at this point. There we go. Yeah, now that they're touching, I can actually go down that entire seam, and then I'm going to use a little bit of that powder again, the glue filler, on the back side of it. I like to join the Starians are so beautiful. Yeah, they were popular, but like I said, working on them was another story. It was not fun. Unfortunately, when I was at Mitsubishi years ago, there wasn't too many of them we saw. There was a few that would come in, but typically they were not. There wasn't that many customers that still owned them. Actually, what I might do is just trying to see what's first, what I should do first. Should I bring this edge? I guess I'll, I'm just going to bring these two edges together and join this from the back. Okay, here we go. Now that I got my hand on it, I can control it. I was having trouble getting that seam lined up. And this is on the back side. It won't be seen, so you can do a little hog wild on this kit. And when he gets to the point where he's doing this, he's building like this section, and he gets to the point where you're going to install it, and then he just stops. It's like he stops the video, like he was done. Like, what the hell? So he doesn't go in the body. Just finish the rest like normal. Well, that's very informative. Put the photo etch. I don't see you actually install. So maybe he was struggling with it. Wasn't for I don't know. All right, got that. Major buffering. See, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know why it's doing that. We start computer once already. How about that comes back? So I'm going to take that and just give that a slight bend, and then I can put some glue along that line there. Take some of this excess out. This glue is dried up on the end of my my toothpick, so it's made like a larger little ball in the end. I got to get rid of. Yeah, I know it's back. I can see it doing it on my screen too, and it bugs me. I wish it wouldn't do that, but for some reason, occasionally I get that. Usually a restart is fine. It's fine after that, but in this case, it's just being problematic. But this Flexi CA glue is supposed to be really super good for this kind of stuff, this VMS stuff. So that's why I went with it. Actually, Nigel's the one that told me about it. Michigan Toy Soldier has it. That's where I was able to get it. They were out of the debonder the first time I placed my order, but I was able to find it last week or so. And so I went back and placed another order. I was able to find the photo etch glue as well, which I couldn't find before. They were out of that and a debonder. Okay. All right. So we let that sit for a bit, and then I can use the debonder like I was talking about to take off any excess. Oops. Reputation with armor and ship modelers. That's good. So I got to put some some photo etch on these resin pieces, so it's going to be pretty small stuff here. You got like 3 pieces that have to go on each one of these. So I'll bring these over. Let me, I'm just going to take this view. Oops, wrong way. I want to go there. Just so everybody can still see. It seems like I'm getting out of camera. So when I'm working real close to my chest sometimes, so I'm getting like really close to see what I'm doing. I sometimes I pull away from the camera, so I'm trying to keep it all in good frame. All right, so there are some really tiny pieces, and they've done a printing error on this photo etch. I discovered it, and I had to sit here and figure it out. They've got these short. These are like 3. I got to bend these into like a U shape. It's if you can see this picture here. This is the piece I've got to do. So it's longer in the middle, short little tab, and then it mounts to the front of this like a handle. Okay. They labeled that as, it says 31 on here, but if the photo etch, you look at the photo etch, it says 34. And then there's also 34 over here, which are larger and for something else. So these are longer, they're wider than they are deep, and that's what these are over here. 30, they're labeled as 34, but this says 31. And then you've got this arrow saying 31, which I don't know what it's pointing to. It's not pointing to anything. So there's a couple little printing errors on this that will throw you for a second if you're not paying attention. But I was trying to make sure I had the right piece. These, like I said, these are more of a longer handle. You know, they stick out more than they are wide, where these that are supposed to go on here, actually, they're just a short little handle. And then there's a second piece that has to go, and I think that's on the other photo etch. Yeah, that's here. I think it's on, nope, it's not. It's on this piece. Okay. So you get these little tiny rectangles here that have to go. If you look at number 26, see, that'll focus. Okay, come on, focus. Okay, see 26, they're like little rectangular pieces. Those go on the front of this, right on that rectangle at the top, right in the middle of, up here, right there on the front. Like this piece right here. Really tiny, and that's why I've got the big magnifiers on, because it takes a while. So I'm going to cut some of these pieces out here. I got these handles. Now I can bend these handles on my little bender because these are small, but you got to be careful not to lose them. There's a lot of them. Actually, I got to get out the big mags, the 4 times. Silly phone. What's that? I can't even understand what he's. Diorama products are okay. Yeah. I was like, what are you trying to write there? And I don't know. I don't know. I didn't do any of the seats either that are inside those folding seats. I'll get to those later. It's a lot of repetition with that stuff. These are kind of small, and hopefully they'll go quickly, but they are tiny, and you got to be careful not to lose them. And I'm just using a sharp. I pulled out a brand new blade. The attachment points are pretty small. You can cut them easily enough with just a nice. I'm using the blue X-Acto blades. They're really sharp. All right, let's bring over the bender here. And I've got to do 6 of these little guys, really tiny. See if I can even show you what they look like when I'm done. Gosh, even cutting them almost makes them want to bend. I'm actually just doing this by hand because they put that that bend line in these, and it really does help. And the stuff that's thin enough, you can actually bend it. So I'm going to try to do this without losing it. This is how small. You see that little tiny, my index finger right here? That's how small that little handle is going to be. Which glue do I recommend? The black is good, but I don't have the slow black. This was just a thin. I didn't know if they realized they made a slow black. If they do, I do have the slow, but it's the clear. But for PE, I'm enjoying the way this one for PE is working. It's working quite well. It seems to give you just enough working time, so when you're trying to straighten something out, and you're good to go. So this is supposed to, looks like it goes right to the top. There's like a hinge. Let me see how this fits. Yeah, come on. Come on. It keeps flipping over on me. All right, so this, okay, it doesn't fit in between. It's going to sit on top. So this is one of those pieces that I can actually take it and just dip the tips of the photo etch in the glue and then stick it on there. It's small enough you're not even going to see it. Which Flexi 5K glue are you recommending? Yeah, we were talking about the one that I'm using is this is Flexi 5K for PE. It says it right there for photo etch. But the black thin is also pretty good. I mean, they're all great. This might actually work exactly the same, just in black, because it's about the same consistency. The slow one is a lot thicker. I had a hard time even getting it out of the tube. It seemed like I don't know if there was just less product in the tube, and it just took a while to get down, the neck of it. But it was like I was squeezing it for a while, and it's supposed to be a slower drying one. So I thought, that might be good for photo etch because it's slower drying, but it doesn't dry that terribly slow. It still dries pretty quick. Okay, I'm going to try to hold this straight. This is going to be so hard. I may end up just putting a small dot of glue on each side, just because it's so tiny. And I've got to get this little tiny thing to sit flat. Nope, it's not what it's supposed to do. I'm trying to get it to stand up. There we go. Ooh, yeah, that's fun. Now, I'm sure I saw that the video I saw, the guy was actually using, it looked like he was using an accelerator. I'm sure that would work, like the Instaset, which I got to fill up my bottle. But I think that would help with some of this small stuff like this, because I mean that's what we're trying to do here, is get that little tiny handle. You can see how it sticks up and see through it. Yeah, that's how small that damn thing is. My recommendation was just for the VMS Black 5K and the debotter. Yeah, I decided to get more than just that. I decided to get some of the other stuff because this has resin parts as well, so I knew if I was gluing resin stuff down, I might want the resin glue, but I do resin kits, or not entire resin kits, but upgrades and stuff like that. So it'd be good to have some glue for resin, I think. I'm just going to go ahead and do all these handles real quick because it's not very complex. It's just two bends, and they're so small that I'm unable to do it by hand, really. A lot of these photo etches, it almost looks like they're two layers. I'm looking at when I bend this stuff, and you can almost see like two layers of metal when they made it. So it's like two sheets. I'm definitely working over the table, because if I drop one of these, I don't want it flying around on the floor. I'll never find it. It's when you take a magnet and you start going around, hopefully pick it up with a magnet. This stuff looks like brass though, so it may not actually work. Okay, one more. Then we can start gluing. You gotta be careful, because if you do bend this and you try to bend it back, you probably get about one or two out of it, but this stuff will metal fatigue on you, so if you're not careful, you could end up breaking it off, breaking a tab off or something if you keep bending it back and forth. Just too much for it to handle. All right. Just a little tab of glue on each side. Come on, let go. Yeah, this is hard. Just trying to get that handle straight. You get it down there, and then it moves off center. I'll just hit this again, just a little bit on the side. I think I'm going to take my, I'm going to fill up the Insta-Set real quick, see if that helps. With the small stuff, it sure might make a huge difference. Oh shit. Well, that was smart. I just set it right down on top of one of my handles. It didn't damage it though, thankfully. All right. So let me see if this helps a little bit. I'm just going to put a drop of this on there. Shouldn't take much. This one should already be dry, really. Okay. Yeah, we'll see if that sets it up real quick. VMS YouTube channel, good tutorials? Yeah, I think so too. I agree. I recommend this and the night shift armor damage for damage shell impact videos. Oh, cool. That sounds cool. All right. Got 4 more to do here. Let's see if I put a little drop of this on there. And then I got to put, I got to get those rectangular pieces cut out and do that too. Those are going to go in here as well. So there's quite a bit of little details. And the landing gear has a lot of photo etch pieces as well. Tipped over on me. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. That's 4. Pain and suffering. Maybe that's what the P is for PE. Pain and suffering. Sometimes. I mean, I think the most extensive thing I've done as far as photo etch would have been probably the F14, the Tamiya F14 that I did, 148 scale. That was like everything. The grills, the internal, the cockpit, the resin seats, just everything. Any upgrade you can imagine, I got for that. The big Edward, the big Ed photo etch sets, the interior, the exterior, everything. Gosh darn it. Keeps sticking to my I think my tweezers are magnetic. They picked up a magnet somehow. Because it keeps wanting to stick to it every time I try to let go. It wants to pull it off. So let's try this again. I have some wooden tweezers right here somewhere. I gotta find them. All right, drop. Okay, one more. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I love that. That was a great build. I was really happy with it. A friend of mine in California turned me on that. He's like, man, he found one on sale. I think it might have even been an eBay purchase, something that was really discounted from what you'd expect to pay for that kit. And so he says, if this is, if you're ever thinking about building an F-14, this might be the one you want to get. And so went ahead, but then I went all in with it. Bought the photo etch and the resin wheels, the tires that look like they're holding weight, the resin seats, everything. Gosh darn it. Why is this last one giving me so much grief? There. Damn. It's not fun. Okay. And drop it into the set. All right, that should do it for that. Now I got to cut out those other. Let's see, I think that is on, this sheet here. They give you a lot of these. I don't know why. There's only 6 of them that I need. Unless they go somewhere else on the kit I haven't seen yet. but I'm going to cut 6 of these out. To me, a Spitfire, as I showed you earlier, is the same in terms of fitting and detail. That's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's 6 there. I'm just going to go straight down this line then. These are big enough. I can probably take a file to the edge and clean up if there is any little burr there. Some of the stuff is so small it's nearly impossible to even hold on to and try to sand it. So you got to try to cut it as close as you can to the piece. With the photo, which is decent quality, the connection, the sprue, so to speak, should come off fairly easily. So, all right, so those are cut out. Now I've got to try to clean them up here. I use diamond files. This is just a straight flat diamond file, but I can hold one of these in my hand between my fingers and just use the edge of the diamond file. That will take that burr off. Flip it over. Okay, so I'm going to do one of these first, and then I'll do the rest. You guys can see what it looks like when it's done. All right, so let me flip this over. There we go. Toothpick. Pretty straightforward. All right, so that's what it looked like when it's done. You got the handle and then that little square piece. And that's one of 5 more I got to do. Can it be on a wood surface? Going across the grain gives you a clean edge, minimal filing needed. It's good to know. This mat is pretty soft, so the blade does kind of go through. But a sharp blade also helps quite a bit. I think these are still 2 layers. You can see the layers. I mean, I've got these things, my magnifier is tuned all the way up to 4 times mags, and I can still see like the multiple layers. It's kind of impressive. This is so thin. But I guess that's how you get the raised details. You have something on the bottom, a second layer. Oops. Just trying to flip it over and I dropped it. I'd love to maybe get myself a small little block of wood and test your theory out, Nigel. Just to see if it makes a huge difference or not. So far, everything you've told me has always been spot on, so Imagine this would be or wouldn't be any different. Yeah, tiny is right. And now you start to go blind. All right. Now just time for some glue. I should be able to knock these out pretty quick because it's just a single piece, like an assembly line, really. It's not going to take much. I think I find it easier to hold these in my hand than trying to place that piece while it's on the bench or on the table. Come on, flip over. There we go. Flip over. All right. That's 3. Whoa. Almost lost that. I shot out my tweezers. Shit. I flipped over onto my glue. All right. Able to save it. And sometimes you can flip this stuff and it'll, flip right over, no problem. And other times, everything you can to get it to pain in the butt. But it's worth it in the end. I'm still uncertain how this whole thing's going to go together at the end. So we'll see. I got some decent screenshots of the interior from the movie, so I should be able to hopefully match the colors in there enough. Okay, so those are done. I'm gonna look back at this guy here, and let's see. I gotta see where I've got to get rid of some glue. So let me wipe up this so I don't get my arm in it or anything. I'll use some debonder here and show the process of that. So let me get the seal up my glue. Nigel says he found that cutting on a mat allows the gate to bend occasionally before being cut through, causing a slight distortion of the part. Yeah, that is true. That can happen, but I recommend using a brand new razor if you have something super sharp. It typically doesn't, because that's why I started doing that. It's because I noticed that very same thing. It was like, if you have a sharp blade, it'll cut right through before it has a chance to bend it. Although you are correct. Let's see here. I need this. All right, so I got a little bit of glue here. I'm using the Q-tip rather than the brush because I can use less. The brush holds so much, and I don't want to get a ton of glue on there at once. I'm just gonna put it on the areas I need to remove. It's got to sit for a minute. I think it even says like 10 minutes. We're not going to wait that long, but it will. It does take time to finally start to release that glue and you're able to remove it, especially if it's dried really well. So I'm just putting a good dab on these areas that have a little bit sticking out along the edges. Some of these pieces. And we got a little bit down here too, so right here, and then we'll let that sit for a second. You talk a lot, but you try not to talk shit. Oh no, by all means, no worries at all, Nigel. It's good to have you back, though. I'm glad you're still doing okay. We missed you. Had some busy stuff going on. Couldn't make it. I get it. Real life comes first. After all, this is just a hobby. So you'll notice when this starts to loosen up, you'll be able to just kind of rub it away. It'll kind of dissolve and then get picked up by the Q-tip. And you just have to let the rest of that stuff either wipe it off or let it evaporate away and dry up. So yeah, that's pretty much the interior in a nutshell. Without having, I got to glue these pieces in, and of course I got all those resin circles I got to glue in. But those, I'm going to paint this whole thing first. I may have to do some touch-ups here in the rear when I finally do the folding and bring all this together. If there's any, exposed brass or anything that didn't get painted properly from being, during the folding process, then I'll have to touch that up. But other than that, I think it's best to leave this open. If I close it up, it's going to be too hard to paint and panel line, all that stuff. So I want to get it good and paint it up and then fold it up. Like I said, this is the back half here where these pieces come together. This piece has to bend down. You can see where the lines are where this has to come together, and that's just the roof section here. And then this is the floor piece, which goes in something like this right here. So you can see how both of these halves have to come together. It's a pretty tight little cockpit once everything is folded. I mean, it's mostly just narrow. It's narrow and not so much. It's taller than it is. Oh shit! I just dropped that in the. That's not going to work. I dropped that Q-tip in the debonder. It's not going to work out that well. Get a new one. I mean, the Q-tip I was using for the debonder, I dropped it in the glue. That's definitely not going to work out. So we get a couple new ones. And these are just pretty much almost standard Q-tips. There's nothing special about these, but they're Daiso, but they're not the nice blue ones that I have, because I only use those for doing panel lines and stuff. But we went to the Daiso store here one time when we were trying to find them. And they didn't have the blue ones, but they had some regular ones like this and some black ones. So we used those and bought those just to see. They were okay, but definitely not as good as the blue ones. So I just use them for simple stuff like this. all I'm doing is just wiping away the excess glue. Once I get enough of that debonder on there, I'm letting it soak, but then I'm using the other side to wipe off the excess. It's pretty good the way it is right now. It's pretty close to being nice and clean. It's a little bit here. I want to, let's see, how can I get this? I think I'll use this edge of this. I think I can scrape that out of there. Maybe not. Test fitting before painting. Yep, it's true, but I don't want to. I don't want to fold this thing up and then do that too many times. I will test fit it, especially. I'm glad I checked this first, because this receiver right here was too big around for the photo etch. It would not go across it. It was pushing everything out of alignment. I just don't see. It's still hard to see how this is supposed to work, because if you look straight on, the walls go up, then they fold out, they go this way, but this photo etch is straight. So I don't know how it's supposed to sit in here and be flat when this surface isn't flat. I mean, it goes, you can see the multiple angles. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, you see what I'm talking about? It goes up here, then out and back. But the photo etch doesn't show any lines or anything bending around that geometry. So I don't know. I don't even know if that's the right word for it, but that's why I'm doing it nice and slow, because it's just like it's gonna either be great or it's gonna be a disaster. One of the two. Won't know for sure until we get there. So I guess I could bend this a little bit just to see. Oops, I got a piece here I forgot. I thought I put, let me get some. I forgot, I didn't soak that. I got to get the debonder on that there. There's that front tab that has quite a bit of glue that's exposed. It was right this one leading edge that I had to glue across the edge, so I got to get some debonder on there. Bit of crazy thought. Cut the panels into sections and attach the fuselage individually. I have thought about that. It's funny you should say that, because I was thinking about it last night when I was looking at this, getting ready, trying to figure out what I was going to do for the show. I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? And I thought, I wonder if that would be easier, but I don't know. It may end up turning into that, not voluntarily. It just might end up being a situation where it's just going to be easier to put in the top section and then the sides. I don't know. It's an interesting point, though. Oh, Artiste is here. How's it going, bud? Phil is in the room. Okay, so I'm not going to glue these in, but I will just kind of place them so everybody can kind of see what these will do. These are going to sit in here in these little footprint. You can see the footprint where they go. And that's like a cutout too. So that's going along those lines of that multi-layer photo etch, because there's an actual recess where each one of these pieces sits. You can feel it. There's a ridge there. It's awfully thin, but there's still a ridge. So once we, and I can, because these are glued to the walls, it's going to be really easy to paint. I just have to stick them to a skewer and paint them up. Do one solid, paint on the walls, and then just attach all the pieces to it before I do that final fold. But anyway, that's kind of what those look like. Let's see if I can lift this up without being too crazy here. There we go. Finally got focused. So far, so good. This is probably the most complex piece of this whole thing. I'd say easily the most complex. So I'm just going to move these aside, because those are going to be painted now. So the next step of those is going to be prime and paint. Because the photo etch is so small on those, I'm not going to worry about prepping them so much with that adhesion promoter. I will end up doing this whole piece, of course, because that's going to require a lot, and there's going to be some bending going on, and the least chance I have of chipping the paint or having to, some fly off during that bending process, the better. So I'm going to use that promoter. All right, let me just look at the instructions here. I'm going to move these again over here out of the way. I want to see what the next page has in store. Oops, am I missing one? Yeah, where'd it go? Oh, it's still on the model. I didn't take it all out. There we go. All right, so I flip this over. Yeah, so this shows, I mean, gosh, there's even some kind of a, like a cage or something in the back that has to go. I'm assuming this is the back. It looks like the back. But the picture is very weird. The way they tried to draw this image. I mean, the easiest one to look at is probably this. This shows the whole body opened up and then the whole floor section coming in underneath. So these are those, the backs of those round pieces. That's what you're seeing here. Guys, give me one moment. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for waiting patiently. The orientation and perspective of those instruction drawings looks all wrong. I agree, Nigel. This is why I've been dealing with this whole thing, trying to figure out how everything goes. It's just the way they draw the pictures. I mean, you can even see, like they've also added, there's a back section here that goes on the back. It actually attaches to the top of this, like this trapezoid shape here. It attaches to that and folds down the back. And then you've also got these, there's like these multiple triangle sections that have to bend and fit somewhere in between the body and the, or this piece, it kind of closes off the front edges, I guess. And I think I know what these do now, because remember I was talking about these multiple angles that are the kind of an open space. I think that fills in that gap along the sides of this. So you won't see, so those will just, I mean, they'll just fold straight up. If this goes in right, this is supposed to go just like, let's see. I mean, this bend is not correct. I still need to fix that, that angle, because I didn't know how far it's supposed to go. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to go even further to get around that, tuck into that corner better. But you see, if I press down and hold this flat, you can see that socket would have been in the way of the bottom of the photo, so I had to cut the bottom half of, or the top half of it off. These, I think, will sit nice and will be glued directly down to that, all that smooth surface there. Up on top here is where it gets complicated, because those have got to, those receivers have to be lined up with these top holes. You've also got the roof section that goes on over that. So yeah, I think the idea of maybe even separating these pieces and doing them individually might be an option, but then that's one giant bend that I have to try to, break multiple layers here to get through, and it might turn into a complete mess if I try to do that, because I can metal fatigue one piece just fine, but I've already added another layer of photo etch on top of that, so those are also going to have to bend and break, and then how do you do that without destroying the entire piece? And then the model is pretty much destroyed unless I somehow reattach this socket piece inside and forget the whole photo etch. I don't know. I don't want to get to that point. I'm really hoping. I don't think it will. It's going to be something that you got to take your time, do very slowly. This drawing has really got me confused. It doesn't even make sense. It almost looks like, I think they're flipping this over, like looking up from the bottom, I think is what you're trying to see here. Yeah, because I see the cutout. This cutout here is right here, so that might be like that, but then what's going on in the back here? It's really weird. It's really weird. Porter models are super bad for the same thing. Is that true? That's crazy. Anyway, let's see what I can do next here. So that was on the other side of this. I think I'm going to have to set this down. Yeah, then they should. Then it's funny. The next page, it just shows like here. This is you putting the whole thing in there. Oh, and it's funny. They show it trimmed off here on the bottom, and they never show that until right now. I just saw it. So they actually show that socket being cut, and it doesn't say anything about removing that in the beginning. You see it? It's cut right there. They've already shaved the top off. So they did exactly, or I did exactly what they're telling you to do, but they don't give you that idea until later. So you got the original floor that goes in, and then this is supposed to sit on top of it. So the original floor only has one really attachment, and that's like right here. Okay, so there's the original floor. Then you're supposed to have this. I mean, this is supposed to sit in here somewhere. Oops, I just bent one of those tabs down. Let me get that straightened out. These things are really, I don't know what they're for. They don't seem to show up anywhere. I don't know where they go. But anyway, this is supposed to sit in here, I think, something like that. But that doesn't make any sense, because if you look, it's like cutting off part of that circle, unless it sits right below it. But that doesn't make sense either, because this is supposed to go in. It's supposed to be deeper below that. So I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe I need to cut more of this off the back, and this piece sits down behind it, because right now you see how it sits on top. I'm wondering if this has to be trimmed further back so this sits flat and drops below that. But I cut it right where it says to cut it. So it's just one of those things. It's like, it's not perfect. I've got a big section here I got to cut out of the landing gear area, but that's another thing. I've already done this part here, which is cutting out all the if you look at the roof section here, cutting out all that and trimming all that. That's been done. This is another piece that I have to cut off. That's, I think, this guy. Nope, it's not. What is it? Where is that piece? Is it this one? I don't know. Oh, oh, here it is. It's this here. It looks like we got to trim off 90% of it right here. Got to cut all that off. And it gives you no, it doesn't even really give you a specified angle. It just says here, cut here. It's like, all right. And we'll cut it. We'll see how disastrous it is, but it's going to take some time, guys. It'll take some slow patience, I think. Just prepping everything, getting it ready, and then I'm going to go in to do the final thing. That's when it's going to be crazy. And there's even some rails that go inside around the windows. If you look at this, this is somehow pictured the front of this, I guess, but there's some railings that go inside. That should be fun, trying to paint all that around the windows. So, yeah. 7. I gotta put this in order. I still gotta go backwards here because I've got some more to do. This was all see, this is where I cut that off. If you look at what I trimmed off, it's the same exact. I cut it right where it says to cut it, but I don't think it's right. It just doesn't feel right, especially with that. The rest of it, you can see what I trimmed off. All that, I cut all this out, and anything that's red gets cut off. So that's what we did, but it's not perfect. Gotta use a little bit of patience and know-how, I guess, to get it all right, but we'll see how it turns out. Anyway, getting close to the end of the show here. Civilian Battle Ring, how you doing? Cheap viewers, streamboo.com, remove the space. Okay. Yeah, thanks for spamming me again, Twitch, for some reason. You guys always spam the shit out of me. What is that? Why? Why? Can you sack? What does that say? Can you... Oh, ask the makers for the full set of CAD drawings for the bee? I don't know. Never thought about that. It's Green Strawberry, and they're usually a pretty good brand. I mean, as far as photo etch stuff, they make a lot of Star Wars kits. I know that I might have even used Green Strawberry before at one point. Can't remember exactly, but yeah, it's a good thought. I don't know if I could. I don't know if that's even possible to find. I'd have to email them and see. Just soaking up the rest of this. The remainder of that deep bonder doesn't seem to want to evaporate away. It just stays there, just hangs around. So, all right, boys and girls, it's getting low. It's getting close enough. I'm going to call this one. Let me go back through the list here. Say thank you to everybody. Let's go back up. First, go back up to here. All right, take these off. Oh man. Oh. My eyes aren't what they used to be, boys. I'm telling you. All right, Nigel was in. He was in first. He was here like over an hour early. And we had Show Me What You Bought in shortly after that. And Julius and Nick, and Giovanni. And I think that was pretty much it for the chat. Yeah. Sorry, I was a little under the weather today. I'm still not feeling 100%. So we'll see how we do the rest of this week. Audio and video frozen. Yeah, sorry about the freezing part. I don't know. It's. I'll be sitting here with the screens up, the cameras up and everything ready to go before I go live, and I'll see the screen go black for a second and come back, and before I can even look at the screen, it's already back up. And so I restarted the computer trying to eliminate that. I don't know if it's just because maybe my wife and I are competing for bandwidth at this point, but I couldn't tell you that, but it might be. Anyway, I think that was it. Oh, we had Civilian Battle Ring come in there too. And same thing, spamming me. Anyway, always good to have everybody in. I appreciate it, all the support, you guys. You guys are wonderful every week. And I'm going to see you next week. And we'll see how much further we get this weekend. This weekend's going to be kind of busy for me. I will be able to share about that next week. I can't say anything right now. Nigel's got an idea, but that's it. Don't say anything in the live stream. It's not for the public at this point. So we'll like I said, we'll share about that next week if need be. We'll see what's going on there. So anyway, boys and girls, thanks so much for joining in. Like, share, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Throw a comment in there. It always helps the algorithm. And as always, be good humans. And we will catch you on the next one.